All right. Welcome to another episode for the Ronald Diltz II podcast. What's going on? I hope you all are doing well. I pray you all are doing well. And we are moving. We are moving. When I tell you, when God is ready to move, he moves. Okay. So many great things are happening. So many great things are going on. And I'm still in that waiting season, as we have discussed. Okay. I'm still in the waiting season, as we call it, the brutal wait. I'm still working on this standing still. Okay. I'm still working. All right. So y'all pray for me. All right. We're going to have to pray for each other. All right. It's a work in progress. But a lot of great things have been going on and happening this season. And it's been just truly a blessing to share with the world. It's been a lot of great things God has been doing in me, through me, and all around me. So I'm just super excited to continue this wonderful journey that God has me on. All right. So welcome to another episode, another podcast. I always call them episodes, but another podcast episode, right? So some quick updates before we jump into this session. Just a reminder. So we're pretty much about four podcast episodes away from this season ending. All right. Because we have a lot of work to do. I got to get to some other work that I need to get done, some more writing. We got to prepare for God Family Business, which we're praying and hoping we can return in the fall. All right. So that's my update there. So the Ronald Diltz II podcast will be wrapping up in July. All right. And then we're going to start preparing for God Family Business to launch its new season this fall. All right. So you can look out for that in the fall. I'm thinking around September, possibly. So be on the lookout for that. That should be great. And that's the one that I host with my amazing wife, Monique Diltz. And we got a lot to share with the world through that. So super excited. Just to remind you, too, we are planning to release the Monique Diltz podcast in January. This podcast is going to be more geared towards health and wellness. And it's just some of the great things that God has been leading my wife to do, not only in my own life, but also things that she's been able to share with the world. So we're just super excited what God is doing in her life, her career, and how he's using her to not only be a blessing to me, but a blessing to the world. So we have a lot of great things going on when it comes to the podcast world. So we're just super excited. We're going to just continue the wonderful journey that God has given us. He's given us these wonderful platforms to share. And, we embracing this journey. And we just enjoy sharing because we've been through quite a journey. And that's the thing I always like to encourage my listeners is God don't put us through these things to not share. Okay. We go through certain things to share, which is amazing. As a filmmaker, oftentimes I'm sharing situations that either my family and I went through, situations I went through as a child. A lot of the things that I share through a lot of my films are situations that inspired me, encouraged me to want to share, to show you how did we make it through this journey? You know what I'm saying? And how God allowed us to make it through. And so as an artist, that's just a natural thing to do, to share things from your own experience. And so, I just want to encourage you, my listener, to consider that, if you're going through a season, it's nothing like just taking journaling down notes, have come up with a journal idea, the way that you can just keep some notes about everything that you're going through. And so that usually helps. That's really great. It's something really great that you can, kind of lean on. And it's really great therapy for you if you think about it as well. And so think about that. All right. So as you're on your own journey. All right. So again, in opening, all right, we're going to get started here. And in opening this podcast season, we discussed the brutal wait. Okay. We discussed basically what it's like waiting on God. Okay. To basically move you forward in his own time, and how that can be pretty much a brutal wait. It can be a wait, you're waiting on God to move you forward. Okay. So we discussed that this season. This season, we also discussed standing still. And this is a lot of things that I'm going through right now in my career when it comes to the production side, because I'm very blessed on the education side. I'm very grateful and thankful, to have a job, on that side, to be able to share, my own experiences with my students, to encourage them on their own journeys, when it comes to the film production side. And so very blessed on that. What I'm more so geared towards is the side of the production side, taking my business to the next level, doing the work that God has created me and my business to do. And so that's what I'm learning more about in this waiting season. So we discussed that, the brutal wait. We discussed standing still. Now it's only a huge plus, a blessing that we have to move forward and discuss the pruning season. All right. So that's what this episode is about, the pruning season. So give it up for the pruning season. All right. It's the pruning season. Okay. So in this waiting season, in this standing still season, a lot of things are happening in this season, and a lot of things we may not understand that's going on in our lives that God is doing. Some things that we don't even know until it's all said and done. We don't even notice what is going on until it's said and done. And so a lot of times in our waiting season, God is preparing us, and this is why we're in a waiting season. He's preparing us for what he has in store for us next in the next season. A lot of times in the season, he's holding things so that we can focus on what he has in front of us. Like right now, a big thing is my family. I'm so grateful and thankful. Yeah, I love working on productions and stuff, but I'm very thankful for the time I get to spend with my kids, the time I get to spend with my wife in this season. And me personally, I just love to have the whole family together in that time that we get to kind of share in those moments, because those moments are very precious. We're not going to always have those moments like that, and the kids are this age, and it's really easy just to, hey, come on, let's hang out, let's go swimming. We're not going to always be able to have it just that easy. You know what I'm saying? As they grow older, those that have kids and know, I hear it all the time. You ain't seen none yet. That's what my parents always like to tell me. But as the children grow older, they're going to have more interest that they're going to want to do. They're going to have friends that they will want to hang out with and all this great stuff. Yes, family time is still going to be very important, but it's not going to be so as easy and smooth as it is now, because they're little. They love that time, and prayerfully we set so many great memories with them. We're blessed to be able to do that even as they get older, they'll hold on to those memories and still want to make more memories. And that's the ultimate goal. So in this season we call pruning season, a lot is going on. A lot is going on in us. A lot is going on through us, and a lot is going on around us in this waiting season while we're being pruned. And so this topic originally came about because last year, believe it or not, I got into gardening, believe it or not. And it's so amazing that I'm even saying that. That's only God, y'all. That's only God that I can even say, hey, I got into gardening. And so what happened here was, I talked a little bit about this in previous episodes, but my wife and I, we were inspired to take a journey, a leap out on faith. And we started this vegan lifestyle where we would eat more raw vegan too, not just vegan, but raw vegan, where we eat a lot of fruits and vegetables raw, and of course, taking that journey, it did a really great number for my health, especially also for my wife's health, but she didn't have health problems like I had going on. But yeah, so a lot of those problems that I was facing with health, like high blood pressure, sugar, diabetes, a lot of that stuff, high cholesterol, a lot of that stuff was reversed when we started dabbling into this raw vegan lifestyle. And we did it for quite some time, was inspired to take this journey. And it was really, of course, because at this particular point in my life, I was just told, I was already on high blood pressure meds, but I was just told that, hey, your sugar levels are a little crazy now. You're pretty much not even pre-diabetic now. I am actually diabetic, the way my A1C was looking. And so of course, naturally, my doctor's telling me, hey, we have medication for this, or you can just diet, do your diet. And I was like, please let me do the diet. We're already talking about doing a fast, this up and coming year. And so that's what we did. And we saw some major changes in the diet. And so that, of course, inspired my wife to kind of take what she learned through that process and getting my health in order. It allowed her to kind of say, hey, let me step back. God is obviously showing me something. She's so motivated and passionate about health and all that stuff, health and wellness. And so she ended up, we have a product, that's the way we looked at it. We have a product. We can't just hold this stuff in. We got to share it with the world, first of all, but we have to do, something that we can offer to the people. And so right away, that's what she started to get more deep into. And she's still in that and growing tremendously. So that's why I'm super excited about our podcast. Cause I'm like, we got to share this. And this is, as we call it, I've heard it's pretty much our public service, to share our experience with the world. And it's not like it's something that we're like, hey, we're expecting to get paid. That's what the podcast is for. That's what the reels are for on YouTube and on social media. That's what that stuff is for. We're giving that stuff away. So when we do have a product, like she has several ebooks that she's going to have available. Now she has, I think, like 2 or 3. But these are items that you can pretty much purchase to basically move forward, because you can trust that person now. You can trust them. Hey, I love their journey, so now I can trust them. So I say all that to say, if you're working on something on your end, or you have something to share with the world, think of what you can give away, to encourage them, to trust, basically to build that trust. You know what I'm saying? For instance, with me as a filmmaker, it took me a little while to get to this point, but I have a lot of short films that are just on YouTube that you can just go and stream now. Few of my films took the route we had on Amazon Prime for a little while. And then when, of course, they have their season where they prune, right? That's another great example. They prune away stuff. And so my stuff, of course, moved on from there. So I put it up on YouTube. So now everybody can just go stream it. Okay. So, and these are older films that we've done, a lot of our short films and stuff. So yeah, it's always great to give things that you can just build that trust, and you're sharing that with the world, encouraging them to say, hey, you can trust me. You know what I'm saying? This is who I am. This is my journey. And people, they hang on to that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they're encouraged and inspired by that stuff. The more they get to know you, the more that they feel comfortable with whatever item you're selling, or with whatever business you offer. And so that's something that we're learning this season. So I wasn't even planning to talk about that, but that just, God just put that up in my mind. So somebody needed to hear that. So that's something that we are learning, and my wife is doing a really amazing job on her end, and she's learning and growing as well. All right. And so I got into gardening, last year, and it was really because of just everything I was learning about food in this fasting season. And so we would usually go down to Miami to visit my wife's side of the family. I call them my parents in love. And we'll go and, allow the kids to spend some time with the grandparents. We spend some time catching up with the parents. And so it's a really great season. And so they have an amazing garden in their backyard that they've been growing for years. So we get mangoes, we get avocados, we get mom send boxes of this stuff to us usually, which is great because we eat a lot of raw fruits and vegetables now. And so they would send that stuff up, to us in boxes when we go visit. If it's depending on what season it is, they're sending us back with boxes of fruit and different things that we love from their garden. And so that was just always inspiring to me. You know what I'm saying? My dad worked in agriculture work for forever back when I was growing up. You know what I'm saying? He did it for a lot of great companies like Disney. He did it for, and so my dad always, trained me up. We were always working in the yard on the weekends. Sometimes we'll cut our yard. Well, we will always cut our yard. Sometimes we'll cut our yard, but then other times we'll cut my grandmother's yard too. And so that's how we would spend our weekends, handling the business on Saturday, going to church on Sunday. And so I pretty much grew up in that, you know what I'm saying? Being in the yard and cutting, cutting the grass and all that great stuff. But never thought I would be into gardening. You know what I'm saying? Never thought I would be into gardening. I probably used to be in the yard so much as a child that I was like, I don't want a yard. I didn't even want a house, y'all. I was like, I don't want a yard. I just want to live somewhere where I can just focus on my writing and I don't have to worry about cutting no grass and all that stuff. But as you get older, you remember those memories that you had with your parents, and my dad, I remember those memories great. And those memories I hang on to as, I'm here trying to prepare my own yard. Now, we're blessed to have someone to do our yard, amazing company that does our yard every week. Eventually I do want to get back to there as my boys get older, that I can kind of train and have that time with them to train them up to, be able to do that as well. But right now it works for us with our dynamic, especially with the kids being at the ages they are. And so, never thought I would be getting into gardening, but seeing my parents in love doing, just being out there with them, they're sending us out with plants to that we can grow, you know what I'm saying, that we can put in the yard and different things. That just sparked something with me. I want to say last year when we went, down to visit, they sent us up with like 3 different plants, and it was just like, whoa, this is cool. And then just to water those plants and just to see them grow. One of our aunts down there gave us some sugar cane to grow, to put in the ground. And it was just like, my dad was down there, was telling me, hey, you see this, you put this up, and he was just describing everything. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay, all right, I'm gonna go and try this. And so that's what I did. I tried it out, and as I started to see things grow, I just got more fascinated about that, to the point that I said, hey, I'm gonna start collecting seeds from the fruit that we eat, that we love. And so right away I started collecting fruits. We started with pineapples and putting the pineapple plant. That's just the crown that you put in the ground. But we started with that. We did some watermelon seeds, and I mean, whatever season we were in, we were grabbing seeds, apple seeds, lemon. We do a lot of lemon when you can get lemon seeds, right? Because a lot of this fruit, they don't be having seeds in them now, y'all. That's the difference. So having fruit that have seeds is the best fruit that you can have. One, because you can replant those seeds. All right. So keep that in mind. If you can find fruit with seeds, try to do that instead. Those are better for you anyway. All right. But that was just amazing to see that. And so right away, I built this great love for gardening. I saw the pineapples, and I would just put them in little pots. First, I set them in water, watch the roots come out. I was so fascinated about that. Like, wow, God, this is amazing to see this, and to see how God it's just so amazing with his creations. All right. And so I just got fascinated about that process. And then it was certain seeds, like ended up having an avocado seed, and it was this process. And all I would do was go on YouTube and research, how do you prepare, an avocado seed, or how do you plant an avocado seed? And I seen all these great videos, and I would just try that stuff out, and then it works. And I'm just like, yo, this is amazing to see an avocado seed. And that was just an amazing process. And then, of course, now we're in this season where we're just kind of pretty much in the mango season. Mom was sending us some boxes of mangoes. Of course, they slowed down now because we're coming out of that season a little bit, but those mangoes are so amazing from their yard. And so, of course, I had to plant. I think I probably tried to plant about 3 or 4 of those, but 2 of them pretty much pushed forward to survive. So we'll see what happened. They're sprouted up into little tree plants now. But yes, that fascinated me. All right. Fascinated me so much. I did some watermelon. I did honeydew. I did cantaloupe in this season. Of course, still learning about this process, but a lot of the bugs ate my cantaloupe leaves and stuff. And that usually happens too if you don't have the right spray. And of course, I want to do natural spray. The certain plants didn't survive because of the bugs and the plants and insects that love to eat the plants. But the watermelon, we got our first watermelon, and I planted so many plants of watermelon, and I was just I'll be honest. I was to the point now. I was like, man, I did all this work. I've been watering. I've been trying to keep them, some nice little fertilizer to keep them, healthy. And the vines grew, very nice and long. But I just didn't see a watermelon. I was just like, wow, God, I don't know. And I was getting a little discouraged. I'll be honest. You know what I'm saying? With the watermelon process, it was just trying to learn what works and what I can do, with what we have. And Lord behold, my wife was out there one morning. I'm getting ready I think I had a show or rehearsal I was getting ready for. No, actually, it was actually the show day for the show that I was recently in. And she just went out there. She was with the kids and she was praying over the garden. This was the first time. So I just told her to pray. And then she opened her eyes and she actually saw a watermelon, a little nice small watermelon that was just sitting there. And that was just mind blowing. Of course, she screamed and came and got me. But we were just so pumped. I was just like, wow, God, a watermelon. Thank you, Lord. I'm happy even to just have one watermelon. And this has been pretty much, I want to say I have like probably 7 to 8 pots that are still out there that, I was just waiting just to get at least one watermelon. So we're in that process now. So guess what? That pretty much started like, okay, how do I take care of this watermelon? So I did a lot of research, found out about pruning. How do you prune your plants and all that great stuff, or your fruit, just to make sure your fruit is getting all the resources it needs to just keep getting bigger and healthier and more fruitful, as we know, right? And so that's how this topic came about. I just recently pruned the watermelon, and that was basically me cutting off branches that went past the watermelon. So any branches that went past the watermelon, I cut it off. Naturally, with any plant, you see a branch that's dead, you're cutting it off, right? Because it's not producing anything. It's just a dead plant or a dead branch. And so that's how this all came about. I've been so fascinated about watching how God just basically takes a seed and allow that seed to basically, the roots to come out of that seed from the bottom first, usually it's the case, peak up at the top with the plant. And that just expands, and then eventually expands to become a plant. It expands to become a tree. So it's just super amazing. Okay. And the way I look at it in the spiritual way now on this journey, we are seeds. God had us in our mother's womb. We were this little seed that he just sprouted up in the womb. And boom, you know what I'm saying? Through the egg, through mommy's egg. And, the other stuff we already know. But yes, that we were like a seed, and we basically, God grew us, up from there, and he's still growing us, up in the world. We have roots that are basically below us that are growing, things that he's trying to push down, and out of us. And then he's sprouting us up to do the work that he has created us to do, to be fruitful, to multiply, to be fruitful and multiply, not only in kids, but, in the great work that he has in us. Right. So that's how all this came about. Okay. So what I love about gardening is basically being able to see God in that way, being able to take a seed, put it in a small pot, water it, do what you need to do with soil, and then watching that seed just sprout up. And it sprout up so quickly. It's usually like a week, usually most plants. And then once it gets tall enough, you got to move it on to another pot. And some plants, I was just learning this process. I don't been on move the plant over to like 3 or 4 pots. My wife's like, you got to stop moving. I was like, trust me, it needs a bigger home, but I was still learning that process. And so now that I'm able here and there, I just try to start them out in a pot that they don't have to move so much in. All right. So that's what I love about gardening. Now, the things that I don't like about gardening is the waiting time, right? Standing still. There you go. The brutal wait, because you're basically working, you're watering your plants, you're giving them food, fertilizer, you're making sure they're getting food from the sun. So you're doing all these things that you have to do just to pretty much encourage them to grow. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately on the journey, you find it's only a little work that you do. God does all the work. It's only a little work that you do compared to what God does. So God, I noticed the rain, there's no water like that rain. When God sends the rain, man, those plants are so happy. They grow. They literally grow like that when that rain comes. All right. And I can notice a difference. If it rains one day, they grow by the next day. And it's just so obvious. I've also noticed in the sun, if you have a lot of great rain and the sun comes out too, they need the sun, just like we need the sun. All right. We need the sun. We need to be watered daily too. You know what I'm saying? And our watering comes differently. It comes from the word. It comes from inspiration. It comes from people that God puts in our lives to kind of push us and encourage us. It can come from your instructor. It can come from your parents. It can come from your spouse. All right. We need that encouragement every day. All right. So that's how we get watered. All right. And of course, naturally, we got to go out and get that sun. All right. We all need the sun. So that's just a must have. So, yeah, so that's some things that I pretty much deal with on the gardening side. Now, one thing I will say for someone that, maybe you're trying to find ways to work on your mental health, gardening has helped me tremendously when it came to my mental health. And so naturally, if you know the journey, one, just having kids, it pulls a lot of energy in trying to work, trying to provide for your family. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of your mental health and your spiritual health. You got to make sure that's in order first. But mentally, being able to pull away, and the kids can come out there with me, going out there and just watering the plants and stuff, that has really helped me a lot when it comes to dealing with stress. Even if you feel depressed, this is a great way to kind of get yourself out of that depressed state. Just being able to be out there in the garden and then to see, your plants growing healthy and strong, and to see God in that way, it just makes you feel so alive, and that's how I feel. I feel so alive when I'm able to be out there and water the plants and see them growing. To be able to see that watermelon. We have some tomatoes that were coming in that we already got to harvest a couple. They were very small, but to see some more tomatoes coming in and yeah, it's little small things right now because we're still learning. And of course, we're in that waiting time and our plants are growing and doing what they need to do. And God is blessing them in that way. But to be able to see small things happening is it's so inspiring, I will say. So that has been a help for my mental health. So if you're someone that's just trying to find, how can I balance myself? How can I be more balanced, with my family? How can I be more balanced with my children? Start a garden. All right. Start a garden. We all need to be planting food, right? Fruits and vegetables. That should be a must at everybody's home. But start a garden and see how that can help you, and just watching your plants grow and taking care of those plants, because now you're seeing something that you're actually pouring into, and you're going to see how God blessed that. So I want to encourage you on that if you need that. So how did how did gardening help me grow closer to God? And so I talk about that a lot. It's just being able to take a seed and water it, put it in some soil, and watching how God takes that and just allow it to grow, in his mysterious way. And so I started to look at my own life like that, my career, everything I've been through, everything that I'm going through right now in this waiting season, and just looking at it in the standpoint, it's like God is still pushing roots down. It's almost like it's a quiet season. I'm being hidden while God is working on me. Okay. And he's pushing those roots down even further to depend on him for everything. And then he's also pruning some things away from me, some branches that needs to be cut, some things that I need to be delivered from, some situations, some circumstances, some financial stuff. God is pruning a lot of things in my life so I can, one, be more fruitful. Okay. And fruitful when it comes to the work that he's allowed me to do. All right. Into the world, just like this podcast episode. All right. This is God all the way. And he's using this to basically share a message to you, our listeners. All right. And so that has really build me up so much closer to God. I think about even in the season, I'm probably pretty much coming up to the year mark of me starting the garden. And I think about, if I look back over this year, I think about the podcast episodes and how they've been on a totally different level when it comes to the spiritual journey. I think about the messages God now gives me to share with the world now. And all the things that he's allowed me to do daily now through social media, and just putting more. I started doing affirmations now just last week, and I'm putting more positive energy into the world and just trying to encourage the world, because that's what we're here for, to encourage each other. All right, so not only encourage each other, on business, but encourage you spiritually, mentally, and physically. All right, so that's the ultimate goal, and that's what I'm all about, what I'm saying, trying to encourage you on that, because once you get those three elements in place, you can do anything. You can start any business, and trust me, you may have a business within that. All right. But you got to work on yourself first before you can push that business forward. So that's what it's all about. Yeah, you may have to wait on some things. Yeah, you may have to stand still, for a season. You may have to be pruned for a season. You're going to have to lose some things, depending on what journey God has for you. In most journeys, we do have to let some things go. Sometimes it's people. We got to let certain people go. They're not helping our journey. All right. Sometimes it's situations, you have to let go. It's not hurting you. What we all struggle with, sin. Okay. That stuff has to be let go. So it's a lot of different pruning that goes on in that season. And this stuff is just to get that bad stuff, that dead fruit out of your lives, those dead leaves, those dead branches, to get them out of your life so you can move forward and be fruitful like God has created you to be. All right. I don't know who that's for, but it's for somebody. All right. Hopefully it's a blessing. All right. So on the discussion tip, all right, I never know how these sessions going to go. I just, they're Holy Spirit led. So what is pruning? All right. So let's talk about pruning for a second. So, of course, I went online and just say, let me see what Webster say, or see what they say online. And so they say pruning, Webster, according to Webster, pruning is cutting off or cutting back parts of for better shape or more fruitful growth. And I was just like, wait, let me read that again. Pruning is cutting off or cutting back parts of for better shape or more fruitful growth. And I noticed they didn't really tell you what they cutting in that, parts of, they just kind of left it open, right? Which is very interesting. All right. We're not talking about it. It's almost like they're not even talking about trees or just plants in this situation. They're talking about a whole lot more. It's on a bigger, broader scale what they're talking about here. So it's not just about plants. And that tells you right there with that definition. So, of course, naturally, we had to go see what the Bible says about this, right? Wouldn't be a spiritual man if I didn't. All right. So John 15:2, and this is the New International Version. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. And so I go back to that watermelon situation, and I had to look at a couple YouTube videos to make sure I was doing this correctly, because I'd never done this before. But I went out to this watermelon that we have, and it's nice little size now, but still small, but nice little size, just to see that. It's so exciting, y'all. And so I went out to that watermelon, and what they were saying, in the videos that I found was any branch that goes past the watermelon, just trim that off. Just cut it off, really. All right. And the reason for that is so the energy, everything that comes from the plant, the resource, all that stuff can go right to that watermelon. It doesn't have to go past that. You don't want the watermelon to lose, the nutrients is what I'm trying to say, the nutrients that it needs to grow bigger. And usually when you cut that, you're already cutting off that extra branch so it can just focus on that watermelon. And so that was just like, whoa, just looking at this definition and what the word says, it's just kind of like, that makes total sense. The watermelon can grow and get all the nutrients it needs if I'm cutting off that dead weight. All right, that branch. And it's not even usually when it came to the watermelon, it's not that the branch is dead. It's just we don't need that branch because, it's on a whole different level there. It's going that way. We need it. That's the focus to be right here, the nutrients to go right to that watermelon. All right. So think about that. Isn't that deep in a sense? You think about your own life and when God is pruning things out of your own life, you have certain branches going one way. It's taking your focus that way instead of your focus being centered with what God has in front of you and what God has in store. And in this world, I will often talk about social media. We're getting pulled in so many different directions. I love social media, don't get me wrong, but it pulls us in so many different directions. It's a lot of distractions out there. It's a lot of great things, but it's also a lot of distractions. I love streaming platforms. I can't even work sometimes without watching something on a streaming platform. But I notice too, when I go on the streaming platform, what do you see? It's just we're fluttered with all these different shows, all these different movies. Trust me, I love it. But it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, and this is what we have gotten used to, you know what I'm saying? Because of all this, just like if you go to YouTube, you've already researched videos on what happened in New York. I'm not saying something did, but let's say something happened in New York. You research that video, then of course you're going to see a whole bunch of videos that deals with that situation and similar situations. And so we're always fluttered with a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to media. And so a lot of these situations and stuff that we're fluttered with can be like branches, especially if it's branches that are not encourage you to be fruitful. All right. Certain things like this can be the opposite of that. You know what I'm saying? It's more pulling energy away from you instead of encourage you to be fruitful. For instance, if you're a filmmaker and you go on and you're watching movies that are more related to what type of movies you want to do, then that's feeding you. You know what I'm saying? That's feeding you. That's encouraging you. That's encouraging you to move forward. Whereas if you go on and you're watching the total opposite genre, you know what I'm saying, then that's not necessarily feeding you. Like if you want to do dramas and you're constantly going on, it's like, ooh, this is a new horror movie. And you watch that horror movie. How is that horror movie experience going to help you grow with your drama film? All right. So it's totally different type of film. Okay. Those are two totally different types of films. And I say that to say, because I love drama. I love thriller. It was a time I love horror. I had to kind of, change up some things in my life when it came to watching certain things. Now with certain horror genres that I would, check out if I feel they can kind of encourage me, or maybe it's just a really great film and I really like that director or that writer, I would probably check it out if it's not too crazy and demonic, right? Or demonic at all, because I'm staying away from all that stuff. But certain movies that are considered like real life movies, that are some can be horror as well. You know what I'm saying? And I more so would see those as more as thrillers more than horror, but they're in line with the horror film. All right, so you have to think about that. You know what I'm saying? And this was something I had to cut off. It was like, okay, I can't be watching all this crazy demonic stuff if I'm supposed to be doing the work of God. You see what I'm saying? Even as a filmmaker, you know what I'm saying? How is that helping me grow? How is that encouraging me and feeding me, to do the work that I'm supposed to be doing? And so that's the way you got to look at everything that you're listening to, everything that you're watching, people in conversations that you have. You know what I'm saying? You have someone that's nagging you all the time. How is that helping you grow? That needs to be pruned, right? And so how is that helping you grow if they're continuing to nag you about the same thing? All right. And so it's people in our lives that are negative. Their energy is negative. They're always negative. They always got something going on. You know what I'm saying? Those people are the people that more so we probably need to move on from, you know what I'm saying? Because they're not helping us grow. And certain people, don't get me wrong, certain people we're putting in their lives to help encourage them to move forward. But don't let that deceive you. All right. Because eventually they got to get that thing themselves too. You know what I'm saying? You do what you can, and then you pray for them from afar if you have to. All right. So just consider that, certain things you got to prune. God is pruning certain things, because I've seen a lot of situations, even in my career, where I didn't do anything. I just noticed that person kind of faded away, or that person kind of went their own way, or this situation didn't work out the way it's supposed to. I didn't get to go to that meeting, and wanted to be there because such and such was going to be there. And so I see that all the time in my own journey. And it got to the point where I just think to myself, it's like, people are here working with me now. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to continue to be here, because God may have another plan. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen that so many times on my career journey. And I've had some really great people that I've been so blessed to work with. But it got to the point that I had to just kind of sit back and was just like, I'm enjoy this moment we have. But in the back of my mind, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? And God has shown me. Now, certain people God have had in my life that are still there. They're still working with me. They're still pushing forward. If I call them up tomorrow about a project, they're ready to go. And those are the people that have been here. They're fruitful. They've been helping me be more fruitful too. And so that's pretty much how I've seen in my own journey. So think about in your own life, you know what I'm saying? If you're seeing some things that are just like, I don't get it. They say they were going to hang out with me and they didn't come through. Well, obviously God is saving you from something. So you got to kind of look at it in that way. Or maybe, this is one thing too. We used to be like this, where someone has an event and they don't invite you and you feel a certain way, right? That's just a normal reaction. But you got to start thinking about it. It's not that they have something against you. It's God is protecting you from something. God don't want you to be there. God don't want you to connect with that person. God don't want you to have that job because he already know the headache it would cause. Or God released you from a job because he knew it would cause some trouble down the line. So we got to start looking at it like that. Yeah, it may be a negative situation, but every negative, there's a positive somewhere in there hiding, waiting for you to grab a hold to it. So think of it like that as well. Okay. So if it's a negative situation, it may look negative, but how can you make it a positive? Okay. So how can you make it a positive? It's funny. Usually, when you have a spouse, sometimes the family on both ends may say something, and now you have a spouse that you can kind of talk to, like, man, I ain't like, and for this as an example, I want my mom to feel a certain way, like, man, I ain't like how my mom said what she said, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want my mom to take this wrong way. I'm just joking, mama. But I may, feel a certain way because my mom may have said what she said. And I can share that with my wife and just kind of let it go, because if you hold it in, yeah, it does bother you. All right. But if you share it with your spouse and you just kind of like, this is what happened. I can't believe mom said that. Your spouse usually, if they from God, they usually tell you a positive, like she probably didn't mean it that way. Maybe she has, she had a rough day today at work. And that's usually the case. Like my wife can tell me something that's going on her end. I'm trying to figure out a positive to cheer her up in that moment. Ain't that something? Maybe it's just me, but that's usually how we work. You know what I'm saying? No matter what the situation, it could be something happened at work. Oh, I'm sorry you had that bad day at work. The student, maybe they don't understand, the whole process of how to communicate with you, what's going on. We're always trying to figure out a way to make a situation positive. And it's usually the person that we're sharing it to, because their job is in that moment is to comfort us. All right. So isn't that something very interesting how that works? All right. I forgot where I was on this thing. So how does this affect our journey? And we're talking about the pruning season. All right. How does this affect our journey? And we just talked about a whole lot of stuff. And so how did it affect my journey, being pruned in this season? And I kid you not, I really didn't even know this until I went out there and just tried to learn how to prune the watermelon. All right. It's amazing how God uses that, just to kind of encourage us on the journey he has us on. And so how it has helped me, I've had more of an understanding of, wow, this is why I have to be in this brutal waiting season. This is why I have to be in this standing still season, because there's some things that God is still pruning in my life, to make me stronger, to make me more fruitful, to make me more faithful, in my faith. We always say God is always faithful to us way more than we can ever be faithful to him. And we slip up a lot, you know what I'm saying? And maybe it's just me. I slip up a lot. And so think about that in that case, where you can get to a point where God is cutting these branches off of you and out your life so you can gear your focus totally on him. And this can easily be, hey, we didn't get to make the bill this month. I'm stressing. I don't know. I'm getting anxiety about this thing. And this is real talk, y'all. Not saying I missed the bill, but we've been here, where we've had to just kind of wait, on God to bring the funds to take care of a situation. And so we could easily get stressed out about that situation, or we can learn how to build our trust in God and trust if it's meant for it to be, God is going to allow those funds to be in place at the perfect time. All right. The whole saying that the old folks say. All right. I'm old folk now, too, because I said, he may not come when you want to, but he's always right on time. I've seen it too many times not to know that is true. That's a true story right there. All right. And so that's how that has helped me on my journey. And that's the effect that it has had. I'm more like in tune at what God is doing now that I've, been more so aware of the pruning season. And so I can, look at myself and just kind of, let things go, try to work on letting things go and trust the process, trust God in that process. And so that's the effect it has had on my journey. Okay. What is the process like? All right. You could just be in that standing still season and not understanding how long you got to stand still. You're not understanding, why you're in this waiting season when you first start. But then you start to realize, when you start to look at the things that are right in front of you, that God is not, and some may say this, I think it says in the word, that God is not punishing us for having us wait. He's preparing us, in this season. He's allowing us to have a moment, to stand still and focus on what's in front of us. And what's in front of us is our family, right? Our family, our spouses, they're the ones that we should be focused on in this waiting season, and focused on ourselves, making sure we are physically, mentally, and spiritually prepared for what God has in store next. And so that's what the process is like. You don't understand what's coming. You don't understand what's going. But one thing for sure is God got it under control. And ultimately, we have to learn how to just let it go. And trust me, I don't have that down yet myself. I'm still learning. Now, I've come a long way. I will tell you what God has already shown me and brought us through. I've come a long way. So it gets easier the more you let things go, the more easier it gets and the more God will show you. Just like being raw vegan. I was like, this is suicide mission, telling my wife, this is like how I'm not going to eat meat ever, And in my mind, I had planned, hey, I'm going to do this for a little while, get my health in order. Then I'm going to enjoy my meat products, in the fourth quarter of the year during the holiday season. And so by the time I started doing this, we started getting more after we did the raw vegan for a while. We did the high raw, which, the nuts and granola added in. Then we went to the vegan style, and vegan food was just tasting so doggone good. I told my wife, I was like, I don't think I need to have meat anymore. Like this is, and I'm a big fanatic of Beyond Burgers and Beyond Meat, basically. But in this season, we wasn't even doing that stuff. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't even doing the Beyond stuff. But when I did have a Beyond, I thought that could have been real meat. It's been so long. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about getting used to things, getting your mind mentally used to things. And once you start, it gets easier. If we were to do a fast, it's so much easier for me to jump into that mode when we're doing our raw vegan fast now, because I've done it so many times and it becomes second nature. And we usually eat like this on an unusual basis anyway, and just add in different things. So the more you do it, the easier it gets. So the more you let things go and trust God, the easier that gets. You won't be affected by what the world brings at you any moment, because God has got it under control. All right. Next point on this would be, what impact does pruning have in our lives? We kind of already talked about this. You know what I'm saying? It's basically preparing you to be more fruitful. So it can be, maybe your teacher, you got some things you're cutting off. You can be more fruitful to your students. You can be more fruitful to your family. You can be more fruitful to your children. You can be more fruitful to your spouse. The more though we let those branches go that are stealing our energy away, which is what happens with the plants, they're stealing our good energy. When it comes to that, the more we can let those go, those branches, cut them off, the more happy energy we'll have, the more positive energy we will have, the more peace we would have. And ultimately, when you have those things, you have more God in your life, you're going to want to share God's love to everyone, okay, to everyone around you. And they're going to be able to reap that fruitfulness from you because of that. All right. Now I'm like, God, what are you saying through me right now? Right. I'm like, what did I just say? All right. Let's see what my next topic would be on this would be, what branches are being cut away. All right. So this is pretty much kind of like talking about the branches. So these are dead branches. These are branches that are not fruitful. Okay. They're branches that maybe the leaves have died on. Okay. So if you have something in your life that's kind of dead and it's sitting there, you know what I'm saying? That's not good for you. Okay. All right. So just cutting those branches off. Dead works, as I always call it. I did an episode about that. And that can be either watching or listening to things that are dead works. They're not doing anything for you. So those things can be cut off, and watch something that's more of a live work, something that's motivating you, something that's pouring into you, something that's encouraging you. Those are the things that you need to pour in, because those are the things that are going to help you grow and be fruitful as well with what God has in store for you, right? All right, so that's what's been cut away. That's what needs to be cut away. If it's not, it's those things that are just causing you, fear, things causing you anxiety, depression. Those are things that need to be cut out of your life. All right. So it can be, as you see, anything. All right. Next topic, next point, I would say, how do I know what fruit is good and what fruit is bad? Wow. So that's pretty much kind of like the dead fruit, in a sense. If it's not inspiring you, if it's not encouraging you, that is not a good fruit. If it's doing the opposite, and you can have some neutral fruit, which is, and think about this. This is deep, y'all. I'm just like, God, you're doing this. So think about if you have a fruit that's neutral. It's not sweet, right? You have a cut into a watermelon, and you're like, oh, this doesn't look that good. Or you taste it, you're like, this could have been sweeter. It's not sweet. So you don't want to be that fruit either. You know what I'm saying? So you have the neutral fruit, you have the bad fruit, which is rotten. Okay. That's the bad fruit. That's the fruit that need to be cut off, the rotten branches. Okay. But then you want to be that fruit that's sweet. You want to be that fruit that's juicy, y'all. All right. And the only way you can do that is by cutting off of those branches that are just taking those nutrients from you. They're pulling your energy. They're stressing you out. They're messing with your mental health. They're messing with your physical health. Oh, that can be food, y'all. They messing with your spiritual health. Right? So you want to cut those branches off that are just messing up those things, those nutrients that's helping you grow. All right. Ultimately to be what God has created you to be. All right. So that's how you know. All right. How can I support the process? You can support the process by letting go, of course, praying more to God about the situations that's maybe pulling you from God. You can discuss those situations with him. He already knows what's going on. You ain't hiding nothing from him. Trust me. I know. All right. I had to learn this. You're not hiding nothing from him. And so that's how you can support the process. Standing still, trusting God in the process, and then talking to God about it, asking God, well, what are you doing, God, in this situation? Or can you reveal to me what needs to be removed from my life? And he'll show you in his way. He'll show you. All right. So that's how you can support the process. And naturally start getting more deep into your word, get more deep into your prayer life, get more deep into your spiritual life. And I always say, of course, mental health, spiritual health, physical health. Those are whatever is going to help you be better all around is what you need to focus on. Okay. And I know even with the kids, my wife and I, we struggle, just trying to keep up with those things. And, it's just something that came to me as I got into my 40s. I was like, I want to be more, grounded with these three elements. And I can't always hit all those elements every day. And I feel a certain way when I don't. And don't be so hard on yourself with that too, because naturally we can be so hard on ourselves, and that doesn't help us either. You just try to do the best you can. God already know your situation. He's the one that has you there in that situation for whatever period it is. And so you just have to do the best you can, when it comes to that. But it definitely helps when you're working on your spiritual health, mental health, and physical health. It helps you all around. All right. How long will the process take is my next point on here. I don't have the answer for that. It can take forever. I always talk about the film Downhill, for instance. This was a film that I did an adaptation for, with the amazing author Anderson C. Hill II. And so that film was done. We started on this project like 8 years ago. All right. And I remember getting the first draft done, and I did the second draft, got it to a couple of my producing buddies that I've worked with or that work with me at Full Sail, and they read it and they gave me some feedback. You know what I'm saying? And one of my buddies was like, hey, man, a film, I'm telling him I'm ready to do this film. He's like, a film can take sometimes, up to 7 years. It's pretty natural. I'm like, 7 years? I ain't trying to wait no 7 years, man. That's crazy. That's too long. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, this is the opportunity that's going to take my career to the next level. I'm ready to go. At least that's what I thought in that moment. I was ready to go. But God had a whole different plan for my life. I didn't know that I was going to go on. I was already with my queen, as I call her. She wasn't my wife yet, but I was already with my queen, and we were moving forward, to that process of getting married and all that great stuff. And then we didn't know we were going to have children. We didn't right away. We didn't know we were going to have one of our children would be born with complications. And so it was a lot of stuff I had no idea. God knew, but I had no idea. And so now I'm looking back over that, like, it's no way I could have done a feature, film and have a film that I'm praying takes my career to the next level. It's no way any of that would have been possible with all the things that we've had to go through, that God has allowed us to go through on this journey. All right. So the process can take a while. And I've been in my career pushing forward for even longer. You know what I'm saying? So it can be a process. And so if it's something that you really love, you have to find ways to encourage yourself to keep going, because that brutal weight can mess with you. It can mess with you mentally, and just seeing other people that you may admire, or other people that's in your circle going on to do great things, that can mess with you mentally, because you start to wonder, well, what's wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? And so I've been there, but you have to just think about, one, celebrate their journey, those that you happen to admire and look up to, or maybe you're just fun at their journey as well. Celebrate that, because you get to be able to witness that. And if God can do it for them, he can do it for you. So at the end of the day, and regardless how long it takes, and it's something I had to hold on. The bigger the dream, the longer it takes. You know what I'm saying? The longer it takes, the bigger the dream. God has to prepare you for that. All right. So I have some questions for you. I want you to kind of think about, as you're listening to this episode and reflecting. This is always my takeaway for you. Are you in a season where you're standing still And do you feel you need to be pruned by God? So think about that. Are you in a standing still season, a season that you're pretty much waiting for God to move in your life? And what are some things that possibly could be pruned in this season? You know what I'm saying? And you can always talk to God about that. You can always, ask God, is some things that I need to remove from my life so I can grow closer to you and what you have in store. Because ultimately God is having you in a standing still season. He's preparing you for what is in store next. And so it's some things that have to be let go before you can move on to that next realm. Look at that, deep. All right. What fruit in your life are you proud of? All right. So what are you doing in your life that you're proud of? Whether it's, man, I really love spending time with my grandchildren, and pouring into them, or I really love, pouring into my students, I really love my volunteering, at the homeless shelter. That's how I feel I can pour into that to that center, So what is the fruit that you're proud of? Think about that. What fruit are you proud of? What things are you doing in your life that you're so proud of? And they're fruit, so consider that. How can you make those more fruitful? Okay, that's the next piece. How can you make those more fruitful? So how can you do a better job volunteering, and it could be something that you're going through that you need to let go. How can you be better for those people? How can you be better for your students? How can you be better for your family? Whatever it is, it's time to let that stuff go so you can be better and be more fruitful. What fruit in your life are you not proud of? All right, so that's kind of like the next topic. What fruit in your life are you not proud of? What dead fruit or what neutral fruit? All right, it's a lot of times they talk about certain people that are not really living up to what God is all about and what God would want for their lives, and they call them lukewarm. Lukewarm. But so that's kind of like neutral. You know what I'm saying? You think about it. Okay, you're neutral. So are you being fruitful? Or are you being neutral? Okay. Or are you being unfruitful? So think about the fruit that's you're not proud of, and let's figure out how we can fix that situation. Okay. So, and it could be easily just removing that situation, but maybe that's not as easy as it's said, for some of us, easy as it's said and doing it for some of us. All right. And so just think about that. All right. What branches can be cut from your life to make the good fruit more fruitful? All right. We already kind of discussed that here already. So that's something to think about. What can I cut from my life to make the work that God has me doing more fruitful? Okay. We all have struggles that we go through. We all have things that we deal with on a daily basis. It's not saying that we're not great people. It's not saying that we're not children of God. It's just saying that we're human, okay? And it's okay to be human. Our thing is we have to learn how to take those situations to God and ask him to help us be delivered from them. And that's the ultimate. And then, of course, you got to wait. You got to wait, and you got to keep trusting him and keep praying about that situation so he can remove it on his time. All right. And he will deliver you. All right. He always does if you're faithful with your prayers and trusting him with that. All right. Let's see. What can you let go and trust God with today? That's pretty much kind of the same sense. But think about that. What can you let go and trust God with? If it's a bill, if it's how I'm gonna pay my mortgage, if it's how I'm gonna pay my student loans, all these, right? How can you let it go and just trust God is going to allow you to handle that on his time? He's going to take care of it. All right. How can you doing growth? Wait, I can't even understand what I'm saying here. What can you be doing, to grow your fruit while in pruning season? So what can you be doing? All right. And we kind of talk about this during this session. You can be watching things that's going to inspire you. You can listen to things that's going to encourage you. You can just put yourself around people that are just as passionate, that will inspire you, encourage you. You just got to find ways to water your fruit. All right. So whatever that fruit is in you, you got to find ways to water it. And that's mostly by putting yourself or around things or situations that's going to inspire you and encourage you to keep moving forward. All right. Working on that spiritual health, working on that mental health, working on that physical health. All right, that's going to help you grow as well. So that's going to help that fruit grow. All right, so some good stuff there. Let's see. How do you water your fruit? And I just kind of went over that. How do you feed your fruit? All right, same thing. You know what I'm saying? We got to get out in the sun more. We got to eat healthier foods. And this sounds like my wife talking now. We have to eat more raw fruits and vegetables. All right. But we have to take care of ourselves. We're discovering more. We had conversation today, me and my wife, about this. That food is a whole different monster. Okay, food is a whole different monster. The things that we put in our bodies, the things that we eat, a lot of these things cause problems. You know, they cause problems down the line. If we do it too much, they cause problems now, depending on what it is. A lot of that things can affect us and affect the fruit that God has put in us. And ultimately, these are branches that also need to be cut. All right. So a lot of things we just need to cut out our diet, period. All right. If we're going to be able to move forward with the work God has have for us to do. All right. So you definitely want to stay away from foods that are not giving you life. And that's what we are always talking about and promoting on our end when it comes to health. And so feed your body with things that are lively things, like my wife would say, that are fruits and vegetables, that are raw fruits and vegetables. Those are alive. And stop putting, as we would say, dead things into your life. All right. But something to think about. It's easier said than done. Trust me, I've been there. All right. So you have to feed your body. You have to feed your mind. You have to feed your soul with things that's going to help it grow. And you have to water it with things that's going to help it grow. All right. How does this help your journey? Wow. Right. It's going to help your journey tremendously because one, if you're doing these things when it comes to your health, you're doing these things when it comes to your mental health, spiritual health, it's going to make you more excited about life. And that's what we need to do. A lot of things are pulling that energy away from us to make us not as excited about life. It's putting fear into us. It's putting depression into us. It's just putting all these negative thoughts into our minds, into our lives. And so when you're feeding yourself with uplifting things, naturally it's going to make you uplifted, and it's going to make you want to share more. It's going to make you want to live more. It's going to make you be more excited about life, more excited about work, more excited about your family, more excited about your children, more excited about your spouse. It's going to make you more excited about everything that you're doing. It's going to make you more excited about that podcast, right? You see how pumped I am. All right. And so that's how it's going to help our journey. Everything that I've been through, I'm just like, Lord, when you are ready to push me forward with the next film or the next play, y'all, I'm going to be so pumped. You better believe it, because I'm a totally different person than I was 3 years ago, not alone 10 years ago. I'm a totally different person. All right. I have so much more power now. Power in God, but I have so much more power than I had back then. And so I'm more alive. I'm more energetic. I'm more passionate. I've been through some things now. So you just wait, y'all. Just wait. So I'm more excited about that. I'm more excited about my journey. You know what I'm saying? And I'm excited to share that journey with the world. So that's how it helps your journey. It helps make you be a better, fruitful person to do the work that God has given you to do. All right. It's going to give you so much more stuff. If you have projects you want to write, it's going to give you so much more to write about. This is what's so amazing about this too. Before I close up, was like when we took our journey for my health. You know what I'm saying? We took that journey. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just going to throw ourselves out there and just trust God is going to see us through. And we went through it, trying to get through. And it was times that just eating fruit and vegetables got boring, y'all. It got so boring. But my wife started to get creative, like, hey, maybe we can make the pineapple a bowl and put the fruit in there. I mean, it was just amazing to see that too. But we had to get creative to make that journey more exciting. And of course, that creativity has grown even more to the point that now we have group sessions when we do fast our fast sessions, we have a group of people that do it with us, and they have an ebook that my wife has done, right? We didn't have an ebook. I always tell them, we didn't have an ebook. Y'all have an ebook with recipes, dressings that you can use, salad dressings, right? We didn't have salad dressings. Everything had oils at the store that we couldn't put in our bodies. So we had to figure it out. I wasn't even eating salad like that back in when we first started because of that reason. And so a lot of these things that you're going through is stuff that you can share. You have to share it with the world. You can write a book about your experience. You can write a movie about your experience. You can write a TV series about your experience. Don't just go through it. Figure out a way, figure out why God put you through that situation first. Talk to God about that. But then ask God, how do you want me to present this to the world? All right. God Family Business Podcast was birthed because of our experience that we went through. Not only how God brought us together now, two different religion backgrounds coming together as one and going through some things. You know what I'm saying? Look at us now, right? Look at us now. We're still going through some stuff, but we know God is in control. So we birthed God Family Business Podcast because of that. And it was really because of our son and everything that we had been through. We were just ready to release that to the world. So think about your situation. What is it God is trying to tell you? What is God trying to show you? What is the work that God wants you to do? Our Bible verse for this session, we don't already been through it, is from John 15:2. NIV, he cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. All right. I hope this episode was a blessing to you as it was for me. Much love and blessings always. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be blessed.